Do you feel like you have what it takes to succeed as a dentist, that you have the right mindset to propel yourself into the future? That's what we're going to talk about today. I'm Dr. Daniel Faber. So today we're going to talk about mindset. This is something that's near and dear to my heart because it's how I started as a dentist myself. We all have a certain mindset when we start practicing. We all think we have it figured out, but the truth is most of us don't. Most dentists come at dentistry backwards. And today I'm going to talk about a little something I call the dream spot theory. So basically the dream spot theory goes like this. It's not something sexual like you might think. I know it might sound like that. Nothing to do with that. The dream spot theory has to do with what I came up with when I was living in New York City. And anybody who's lived in New York City, I'm sure can attest to this, that finding a spot in New York City can be torture. You're circling around for hours trying to find your spot. Most people who are driving to the city will look for a spot that's far away from where they're going to park, thinking there's no way I'm going to find a spot there. It's just not going to happen. What I do is I say, we're going for the dream spot, which means that if I'm going to some restaurant or some place, I'm going to look for the spot right in front of there. Chances are I'm probably not going to get it. It may not happen given that the traffic in the city is impossible and there's signs all over the place saying one thing and the other, but I may end up parking a little farther away from where I am. But my strategy is to look for the spot right in front of where I'm going and then circle around. So I won't just give up before I start. And this is the essence of the dream spot theory. I'm looking for that dream spot. That's always where I'm going to start. I'm always going to go for the best. So how does this apply to you as a dentist? Where does this come in? It actually comes in every step of the journey, every decision you have to make almost every day. But most of us as dentists will kind of start out looking for that spot far away. The key is looking for that dream spot from the beginning. And granted, some people watching today might already have practices and kind of already have established certain systems and approaches, but it doesn't mean that you can't modify things or use this mindset going forward. But let me give you a little story about how I applied this when I started my practice. We're going to do everything we can to get this practice going. We're going to take insurance, we're going to do all this, and I said, no, we're not going to do that. That's when I told about the dream spot theory. And how we applied it was, look, we're not going to take any insurance. We don't really want to take insurance. We're only taking insurance because we're kind of scared and we think we need to get patients. And we decided not to take any insurance. We got to be open every weekend. We got to be open every Saturday. We have to be available all the time. And I said, Rich, we have young kids. Do you want to be working on Saturdays at this time? Our kids are really little. It's precious time with our families. And he said, no, I don't. But it's what we have to do. And I said, well, it's not what we want to do. It might be what you think we have to do, but why not start by doing the ideal first and then adjusting as needed? And in other words, look for the dream spot first and then circle around from that spot as we need to, but the original plan is to be going toward the dream spot. From that point on, that's the way we proceeded. We didn't take insurance. We didn't work weekends and a bunch of other things that thinking starting a practice you would do, but we didn't. And how did it result? We never needed to take insurance. We built the practice how we wanted it to be built. And we didn't just do things based on fear. We did things based on deliberate action. And that really is the key to any success, but especially in dentistry. You have to deliberately form the practice you want, not let the practice happen to you as most dentists do. Now you might be thinking, this is obvious, Dan. Why are you even telling me this? Why am I even listening to this? This is such obvious stuff. You do what you want and then you adjust later. Well, if it's so obvious, then how come most people don't do it? Most people will err on the side of caution, and that's human nature. Fear and greed are parts of human nature that they're instinctual in what you do. So you may be asking yourself, okay, this dream spot theory sounds great. I'd love to use this thing, but really, how do I use it if it's against my human nature, if it's against my instincts? And the answer is you want to be a contrarian. And being a contrarian means you kind of do the opposite of what instincts will tell you, which is hard to do. You have to go against your better instincts. You have to go against what you think is the right way to go. And often this works in the industry of investing. you'll find that some of the best investors in the world that have ever lived are contrarians who do the opposite of what everybody does. Namely, everybody uses Warren Buffett. He discusses being a contrarian and going against the crowd. It's a great quote, buy your stock when there's blood in the streets, meaning when everybody's selling their stock, that's when you should be buying your stock, and vice versa. When the stock market's booming and going great, everybody's jumping on. As soon as everybody's jumping on, that's when you should be jumping off, because the crowd is amping it up, and then eventually it's just gonna come down. I'm not gonna go into the intricacies of market analysis, but that's how it works in that industry. A great way to apply being a contrarian and the dream spot in dentistry is through marketing. And in marketing, we all think as dentists, and I see it all the time, where dentists start a practice and they just ascribe to the philosophy that I'm a dentist and that's my brand. I'm a dentist, so I fit into the category of being a dentist and marketing how dentists do. And the problem with that is exactly what I was talking about before, the whole contrarian aspect, like when the market's going high, meaning if everybody's jumping on this one marketing thing that's doing great, by that time, it's overly saturated. So there's this new Facebook tool that everybody's jumping on and using. The problem with that is if everybody's doing it, then it's going to be a lot less effective, because there's going to be fewer patients that each person's going to get. If there's 100 people doing something, 1,000 patients going for it, you're going to do a lot worse than if there's 2 people using something and 100 patients are going for it, 1,000 patients are going for it, whatever. But my point is that the more saturated something is, and the more it's been out there, and if you're the last person jumping on, or it's already established and you're jumping on, it's not going to be as effective. And the answer to this is being a contrarian, doing the opposite. And what all dentists do is they jump on things. They jump on something that looks great. They jump on the shiny marketing object out there that's going to get them patients. Why? Because they're a victim to the marketing vendors out there. These marketing vendors, they know that you don't have a plan or any guidelines really that ground your decisions. You make decisions freely, what you think will work the best based on what you're being presented with. So to act as a contrarian here, you need to have the approach that you're working from the inside out rather than the outside in. And what that means is that you need to know who you are before you can start throwing your money out there to attract patients. So the key is really establishing what your core values are, what your core vision is. And then once you know that, you can create a target. You can say, if this is my vision and these are my values, these are the people that I want to help in my practice. And we call this our core foundation. Once you know that, then you can decide on what media, tactics, and strategies you want to use to match with your core values and vision and target. That's the opposite of what most dentists do, where they'll just start a practice or work in a practice or whatnot. And yes, they identify themselves as a dentist, but then use the tools and tactics that are out there frivolously, meaning they'll throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, rather than knowing who they are and consciously and deliberately searching for ways to match what they're doing. So in this video, we covered the dream spot theory and why that's important to go for your goals and do what you want and create the practice that's good for your lifestyle, rather than letting the practice happen to you. You want to happen to the practice. And that is a decision you have to make to your future and your growth as a dentist and as a business person. We talked about being a contrarian and doing the opposite of the crowd and not going the crowd and being your own person. And that's extremely important to combining it with the dream spot, because if you're being deliberate in what you want to do and you're trying to grow the practice that you want based on your own terms, then you're going to have to employ some strategies that are the opposite of the norm. Because if you do what everybody else is going to do, you're just going to stagnate. And you have to set your own path and know who you are. And that includes building your core vision, your core values, and your brand. And once you have your brand, then you can determine who you want to go after as patients. And that is not so simple as who you're treating as a person, who fits the vibe of what your practice is and what you're trying to grow. Though once you have that foundation in place, then you can decide how you want to bring those patients in with the media that you employ. Don't go after the media first like most dentists do, because then you'll be victims, like I said, of vendors who are just trying to dangle carrots and get your business. Essentially, you want to own your brand. You don't want the dental field to own you. So this video is meant to create a foundation of mindset. We touched on several other topics, but we'll get deeper into those in future videos. I hope you really enjoyed this video and you'll find use for it right away in your practice and in your life. And that's really my goal for this channel, is to help dentists become more prosperous, more profitable, and generally happier in their lives. And also with this channel, I want to give you information in bite-sized chunks so you're able to implement them. As a dentist, I know that you could be bombarded with information from a weekend course or a lesson that you might get, but the key is really implementing what you learn, not just taking in what you learned and saying, wow, that's great information, and not being able to use it. Please feel free to subscribe to our channel here. You can just click the link or any of the links below, this one here or the one below. And don't hesitate to click the little bell symbol so you'll be notified when new videos come on. So I want to thank you for stopping by. This has been Dr. Daniel Faber, and I'll see you in the next video.